All right, joining us now here at In the Circle, he's the head coach at Iowa State. He's been there since 2018, fresh off Iowa State's NCAA Tournament appearance this past year, the first for the program since 1988. I speak of Jamie Pinkerton joining us now here at In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great, Eric. How are you doing today?
Good. Let's talk about this Big Four Classic. It's back after a year, obviously, with COVID and the protocols, but this has been a big tradition in the state of Iowa where you and Northern Iowa, Drake, and Iowa all participate. Just talk about what's it like from your standpoint to be a part of this Big Four Classic, which I think is the marquee tournament in the fall, which is kind of cool to kind of bond everybody in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, it's one of those tournaments that would be a great in-season tournament if we had the weather to be able to do it. Obviously, you and I and Drake are in the same conference, but to get together in the fall and do this, I don't know any different. It's except for the pandemic year 2020, that fall where we didn't get to play. It's ever since I've been at Iowa State, we just do it every year. I think it's a great event. It depends on where it is in the fall. This year it just happens to be closing our fall, so it'll give us a good idea of where our program's at. But to rotate campuses, it's in Cedar Falls this year, and then just rotates to each campuses, and we get to host every 4 years. So just it's a great event. Fans come out and we play each other and kind of see where we're at. So it's not very often that you hear of states showcasing their own teams in their own state, and it's always exciting for our players. Our players love it. The coaching staff has an idea because the programs are great programs. What Renee's doing at Iowa and getting them back up to speed to where they were. You and I making it to the regionals, Columbia Regional last year. Drake having a good run the last few years. It's always highly competitive, and it's just a great tournament to see where you can put players in that may not be in your starting lineup to see if they can compete against those teams and really be a true option. So there's different ways to how the coaches handle it, but I know going in, we'll look at it as getting an opportunity to try to play as many players as we can against a quality opponent.
Well, and I love the passion and the pride. I've talked to all you coaches this week about this tournament, and just the fact yes, you're competitors, you compete against each other, recruit against each other, but there's a pride about the state of Iowa that all of you have in common that you want to showcase to the national fans, if you will. There's great softball in the state of Iowa, great talent in the state of Iowa. Coach Calvert talked about the pride that you and Ryan got to the NCAA tournament. Iowa had their best year since 2012. There's a pride there, right? Yes, you guys are all competitors, but there's a pride there. Something about that state of Iowa. What is it about that state that brings that pride and passion?
Well, obviously, I'm not a native, but now I'm starting my 9th season coaching in the state of Iowa and at Iowa State as an assistant, starting my 5th year as a head coach. And it's hard to describe. Just the fans here of softball of all 4 schools, and you'll see, you can even see it on Twitter. A lot of people that, since it's such a big recruiting tool these days, I'm not good at it, but you see players that follow all 4 programs, and you see parents that follow all 4 programs. So there's a sense of pride there, and I think it's a quality of softball. And the coaches have been here a while, like Jake at UNI has been there, quite a few years now. Rich between Iowa and Drake has been in the state for, over close to 2 decades or more. And then Renee being a native from Iowa and coming back and coaching. And, now I call myself a transplant. I've been here 9 years, a good portion of my life. My kids went to school here. So there is that state pride, even though I'm not a native. But it's just to see the fans and the letters and emails that we get from players that want to play at Iowa State. And I'm sure for the most part, probably, I know Rich and Jake and I have joked on occasions. We get the same letters from some of the same kids, and it's just a pride, and it's a great thing, so not only do we play against each other, we recruit against each other, and to do this Big Four against coaches that you truly like, even though we have that competitive edge. And I had someone make a comment and Renee might vouch for you if you haven't spoken to Renee. She came up and hugged me at a recruiting tournament. I've known Renee almost 30 years. We're good friends. And then someone asked, well, that was awkward. And I go, what do you mean? Well, Hawkeyes and Cyclones hugging each other. And I mean, I think a lot of people don't know the history that us coaches have
Right.
For each other. So, we're friends, but obviously we're going to be competitive. I've played golf with Jake, I've played golf with Rich, and I've become really close friends with the assistant at Iowa, Rick Dillinger, just on the recruiting trail and everything. So I think there's a pride in the state. There's a pride that we want the state to do well in softball. And quite frankly, I want all of us to do well outside of, as long as when we're not playing each other. So I think it's just a great way to get together.
No question.
And find out where our teams are.
Right. It's a great test. I mean, and you could just take a bus trip. And I think that's, she even told me, I mean, one of the things she missed about this past year was not playing you during the season, and things like, playing Drake and playing Northern, because you can find out where you're at as a team. It's a quality games on their schedule. And I think that's I think some of the fans missed that from this past year, that didn't happen. And I think that's why I think you're going to see a lot more appreciation for this fall ball tournament.
Not the past year, Ryan, with the scheduling quirk that the Big Ten had. We hadn't had the Cyhawk series in 2 years.
That's right.
Since 19. Yeah. So I know our fans are eager. Obviously we'll play here this fall. I mean, let everyone tell you it doesn't count, but it counts. But I think all the approach that all the coaches are going to take. Yeah, we want to win, but we also want to make sure our team gets better and get done what we want to do to get our rosters prepared for the spring. And that's the approach we're taking. Scoreboard is being lit, even though it's probably free substitution and move players around at free, with the freedom to do that. Don't kid yourself, that the players want to win, and us as coaches, we want to win too. But I think the main thing that I know that we're looking at and getting out of it is just looking at the different combinations we can use. You got to remember, we had a very good team last year, and I think we're poised after the way we played at DePaul this past weekend and the opening junior college we played here in Ames. I think we got a chance to be really good, but we've got to find out a way to replace the left side. Sami Williams is a huge hole, and Logan Shabron that was a great leader and a great defensive player, and came up with clutch hits for us. So there's definitely a leadership backing that we've got to fix. And someone's got to, I don't know if we can fix as a coaching staff, but we just got to have some players rise to the occasion and fill that vacuum left by those two.
Two that were part of a historic team this past, you made the NCAA tournament. First time Iowa State has been to the NCAA tournament since 1988. It was the longest drought of a program that had made the tournament. I know when you got there, and we've had you on before, you believed in this program and that's why you got here. But you also know, because we've talked about it in the past, when you took the job, there were people that probably came up to you and said, are you sure about this? And this or that. Take me through, what was it like, as now that you've had a chance to reflect on it, to make the NCAA tournament for this program after all the hard work? And then not only that, but make some noise, make the regional final after a tough first game coming out of the loser's bracket to get to the regional final up in Missouri.
Well, I mean, obviously it was a great year from, a historic piece. I mean, we didn't get, the record wins in a season, but I mean, just the run on RPI wise and getting into the tournament. I think the most enjoyment I got out of it is watching the women. I mean, just know as we got off to an early start that was really good, kind of, defeating Ole Miss and Mizzou, who were highly thought of by the committee as we went through the season, and to have those signature wins early in the season and to play well. And then, we start Big 12 play and we hit that buzzsaw of Oklahoma, Texas and Oklahoma State right off. And we go through a stretch there that we lose 10 out of 12. And that's where this leadership of Sami and Logan really showed up. And that I knew that was our make or break time, is after those first series, is okay, are we going to recover from this, or how are we going to handle adversity? What's leadership going to be? Is there going to somebody, one of the younger ones, step up and be in a leadership role and help Sami and Logan? And just to watch the women come together and kind of go through a streak towards the end of the season that we had, and then to get into the tournament, it was just really fun watching that maturation of the younger players starting to bring their level of play up to the level that Sami and Logan had brought to the table. And we had a young pitching staff. What a lot of people don't realize is the main core of the pitching staff, Carly Charles and Ellie Spellhug, the 1A and the 1B. We interchanged the staff, and you throw in Janessa Jasso and how young the staff is, along with Shannon Mortimer. It was a young staff, and to realize that some of those pitchers, Ellie Spellhog and Carly Charles for sure, had not even ever thrown in a Big 12 game. Neither had Saya Swain. So we had only had very limited innings, and to see how they developed as the Big 12 went on and taking us to the NCAA, it was great to watch. I mean, in retrospect, I think that was a huge accomplishment for as young as the team was outside of Sami and Logan.
Take me through selection night. Where were you as a team? What was going through your mind? People like myself that do projections, we felt you were a lock, you're in. But from your standpoint, you don't know. Iowa State haven't been to the tournament in '88, so you just never know what's going to happen. What was the mindset going in? Were you nervous? Were you confident? What was your mindset going in? Because you're probably thinking one thing, but you also you got your players here around you. They're going to watch the show, and you probably want them to have a certain feelings about it, not be too concerned like maybe you are internally.
Right. I mean, obviously, I went to Sami and Logan and just said, hey, obviously you're an at-large, so we know that we're not in because we're not a conference champion or a conference tournament champion. And I just said, hey, do we want to get together and have the team together, or do we just want to sit at home individually and watch our TV sets and see what happens? And Sami said, I want the excitement with the team, and I want the heartbreak with the team. So that's when we decided. We met here at Hunziker Auditorium right here in Jacobson Athletic Building here on campus on the north end of Jack Trice Stadium. And we just got the team together and had some food and waited for the show to come on. And I had a pretty good feeling. I mean, obviously with the RPI where we're at, and historically with the RPI, I had a good feeling, but I thought that was telling of the kind of leaders and the kind of people Sami and Logan are. They wanted to be with their teammates, whether through disappointment or elation. So we did it, and I'm glad we did, because just the scene that you saw when you DVR and go back and see the show, I was able to see I was back up behind the team when our name came on the screen, and just to see the excitement they had, probably one of the most happy moments I've had for a team in my career.
It's a moment they'll never forget. That moment where they see the name making the tournament, being a part of history. That's a lasting memory that goes beyond softball, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, it's what they all strive for. It's all what they dream of. Obviously, they dream of making it to Oklahoma City, but we know only 8 teams make it there. We know the percentage of teams and players in their career that are not going to make it to Oklahoma City. So I think making it to our version of March Madness, which we call May Mayhem around here, is what it's about, and the dreams, and being able to be on ESPN and play in regionals. I think that's a dream of a lot of young girls growing up, and to see them be able to realize that is always a fun moment.
I want to expand more on the pitching staff. You mentioned Carly and Ellie Spellhog and the rest of your staff, because I don't think your team got enough credit from the pitching staff. I saw them in 2020 when they were just starting up and going through some bumpy roads. I remember we talked during that year, like, hey, they're going to be really good, but we got to go through this process of growing pains. Just talk about the maturation from that staff to accomplish what they accomplished, considering how young they are. I don't know if the country realizes how young your pitching staff was and still is.
Well, I mean, let me take it a step further. I think I had the number when I talked to the ESPN crew at regionals, but just realize I think 22 or 23 of our players out of the 28 had not ever played in a Big 12 game because of the pandemic. And that night in February, when you and I met in person for the first time, that was a heck of a ball game that we had that night. And to know how good they were and where they were, we did have ups and downs. And I think in the pandemic shortened season, we were right at 500. I think we were 11-13 when things shut down, but we had played a lot of high RPI teams, and we still had enough non-conference games, and I think we had a spring break trip that I think we probably would have finished above 500 and been in consideration for a 2020 tournament. So to think of to take us through that season, how young and only have 24 games, obviously was a huge advantage to come into the 2021 season and still be able to call them freshmen. But just to watch that maturation and watch that staff, Kate Sennett's done a fantastic job. She prepares the staff both physically and mentally, and prepares them for each game. And a lot of that has to go to her and what she does with the pitching staff. But they did a fantastic job, came out and had a good season this past season. And who knows with COVID and the transfer portal and people graduating early, how that's all going to pan out. But just to sit back and think that truly our pitching staff is really juniors in the classroom, but sophomores on the field. We have a chance to be really good for a while. And but do we have their? I mean, the questions come up that all coaches are going through right now with the pandemic. Do we have their major when they graduate to start a master's? If we don't, where do we help them go? And I'm one of those coaches. I'm not going to hold our kids back and say, hey, get this secondary degree unless they want to. I'm going to try to help them matriculate through and go to where they need to be. But there's a lot of questions to still be asked. But if we can hold this staff together for another 3 years, we got a chance to be really good.
And that's the amazing thing. You've got a very experienced group and a staff that is going to give you chances to win every game, and to go through that experience of pitching in big games in the Big 12, to pitch in a regional. That's valuable experience it will even help even this year coming up.
Well, true. And making it to the regional final last year, yes, they were, all freshmen, Jasso, Spellhog, and Carly Charles, and they were COVID freshmen. Then you had Saya Swain, that was a true freshman. And then, Shannon Mortimer, who has been battling injury since she's been here, was really the only person that ever pitched a Big 12 game, much less get us to a regional final. And Mortimer did a heck of a job for five plus innings in the elimination game against UNI to get us to Sunday. So her leadership in the bullpens kind of helped the younger ones, but it's we're young at other positions too. I mean, Alicia Ranches, who's taken possibly over for short for Sami Williams, is a COVID sophomore. Carly Spellhog, who's one of our best hitters, is a COVID sophomore. So, I mean, we have a lot of talent if we can keep them together through their COVID senior year and not have to go somewhere else to start their masters. That COVID year might prove to really help us down the road.
Obviously, you're going to get asked a lot about Sami Williams between now and February and how you replace her, which is a dumb question. You don't replace a Sami Williams. That's a once in a generation. And let's just kind of pay respect to her and, what she meant to the program. Just put it in words, if you can, what she meant to this program. Because in a lot of ways, she put your program on the national map with her performance. She obviously was playing in Athletes Unlimited even this summer before she got hurt. Aubrey could go down as the greatest player ever in Cyclones softball history. At least I feel like that way, that a lot of people probably would say that. Just put it into words what she meant, because I think people just look at the stats that she produces. But as you've mentioned even earlier, the leadership and the maturity, because I think she helped a lot of these young players maybe grow up quicker than maybe they normally would because of her leadership.
You want the blunt answer or the politically correct answer?
Let you pick.
um, just matter of fact, blunt answer. We're not where we are right now without Sami Williams, period. Did she have a good supporting cast? Absolutely. Did she help us get to where we got, last year? Absolutely. But I mean, I think the thing that I'm going to miss, and I just saw Sami Sunday. She came over when we played in Chicago against DePaul. I think what we're going to miss is just one. Let's take away the accolades. I mean, I know you talk about Mount Rushmore in a couple of talks that we've had. She's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of Iowa State softball. But to take away one, the type of person and human being she is, we don't accomplish what we do, and we don't grow up as quickly as we do if she didn't know how to approach people and be a good teammate and be a good human. And then you add to, you never had to worry about your star player being ineligible because she was a 4.0 most of her career here in software engineering, and got her master's in 1 year in a field similar. So just to go and talk about the mark that she's left. When Iowa State athletics has their Hall of Fame, she's definitely a first ballot, but she's a Hall of Famer in my book, just from one, the type of person she is, and what she did as a student athlete. And that's more important to me than in the W's. And I know I get paid that to graduate players. I know I get paid to win as many games as we can, but our staff and team probably will be forever indebted to Sami and Logan Shaven. I mean, without those two, they were a dynamic duo. I mean, it was a good run, and they're going to be great women in the professional world.
It's just very appropriate that they were part of the NCAA, both Logan and Sami. They were part of that historic NCAA tournament team. It would have just been wrong if it had ended any other way, wouldn't it? It just had to end that way with an NCAA, because that wasn't guaranteed, right? You mentioned the extra year. They came back and things like that and helped put you over the hump, this group, to make the tournament.
Yeah, and they didn't bat their eyes twice at it. It was when we were sitting in the locker room when the season had been shut down. It was pretty much they were coming back from if that year was granted. Logan and Sami were all in, and it would have been. I mean, obviously, we would have been happy for the Iowa State team to make it without them, but I felt that it was more appropriate, more heartwarming, more appropriate that we made it. And then also too, when they came back, we always said, hey, hard work doesn't always guarantee success. I mean, they have the work ethic, they have to get a team to regionals, but things just like anything, an injury here, an injury there, a bad break here and there, a game here, a game there that gets away from you. I think that happened with our 19 team. I think we were a bubble team along with UCF, as you know, we've spoken about this, both bubble teams, and you could go back and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and 19, and we probably make it in 19 also. So yeah, I just felt that it was an appropriate and well-deserved ending for those two when we made it.
And they help obviously grow up. You bring back a lot of talent, a lot of players back experience that learn from them. I'm curious, from an offensive standpoint, we'll start on the offensive side. Who are some of the leaders that will step in there? You don't replace a Sami Williams, but you have enough talent coming back where you could offset some of that production loss. And you've got players that are talented that were under the radar because of Sami's attention. Nobody's fault on that. But you got players like Carly Spellhog, you mentioned Ramos. There's talented players that hit that probably was under the radar that now maybe has a chance to showcase themselves and say, hey, I'm pretty good too.
Absolutely. And how you address that, and I think you would agree with this, Eric, is you can't replace 446, 21 homers and 56, 57, whatever. I don't have it in front of me. But what you do is you as a coaching staff, you try to figure out, okay, how can we grab a couple of more homers here and there? I think that comes with maturation and players getting stronger. I think how do we eke out some RBIs? I think up and down that batting order, we're going to have to probably some players are going to have to produce more than what they have to fill that vacuum. You mentioned Michaela Ramos. She had a great year sitting behind Sami because if they worked around Sami, Michaela made them pay. Carly Spellhog hit well into the 300s and stole 15 bases for us. She'll have to, pick some things up. She had a few homers, but she's got another year back and another year wiser. And once again, just a sophomore. I think Malaysia Ochoa had a great year in right field for us. I mean, she hit well, and I think she hit like 340 something. And I think if she can continue to do that and pick up, she had a home run Sunday and did some damage against DePaul. I think those three players obviously are going to have to pick some things up. I think the key players that can really help us are Casey Simpson and Alicia Ranches. Who are returners and middle infielders and are going to probably have to pick up some of that slack. Obviously Skylar Ramos had a good year last year, and she's back for her COVID senior year. If she can continue that upward trend that she has the last few years, is going to be helpful. We have some freshmen that are very talented. Angelina Allen had a big weekend at DePaul and this weekend. And I had to tell our team, everybody graduates and loses players, but we won 8-0 and 9-1 against the defending Big East champions. So obviously we're going to have to get some production there and then just moving some people around, Kaylee Gosey in the outfield, if she can improve, and then some of the reserves that have been role players, if they can step up and step into the starting lineup. But, Kaylee Pond, who that is playing third base, is doing a good job. She had a big weekend this weekend, driving in some runs and hitting a couple of doubles. She's a player that was a freshman last year, was playing behind Logan Shaven, but we redshirted her. So there's some key talent there that I think that can help. And then some of the returners, that's just to name a few, that they can pick up that slack and do what we think we can. Like you said, you and I would be, I don't know what a nice bad word would say. We'd be fools if we think that we're going to replace those numbers in Sami Williams. We just got to figure out a way to do it by committee.
And defensively, what she brought at shortstop, you mentioned that earlier about who could possibly step into that. What are you looking at from a defensive standpoint in that left side in particular, especially at shortstop? And as coaches, whoever steps into those spots, do you have to remind them, hey, don't try to be a Sami Williams. Be who you are, because you're good enough. Because sometimes some players that follow a player like Sami Williams, and Coach Jacobs mentioned that with his situation, because he's in a similar boat than you are about Sammy Bunch. Yeah. Man, state of Iowa, y'all, state of shortstops. But he talked, one of the things they've approached is whoever the starting shortstop is, you're good enough to be the starting shortstop. Don't be who was before you. Be who you are. Is that something that applies to you as well here?
Well, I mean, obviously, Courtney Martinez coaches the infield, and I don't know the exact words that she would use, but here's my thoughts and what I would say if that came up. First off, you got to be you, and go out there, and you're here for a reason. You were here. We brought you here because we knew that you were going to be a changer of the culture here in our program. So we got the first two important things out of the way. You're good enough to be here, and you know the culture. And I think with Alicia Ranch has played, she's a utility player, has played outfield for us, has played middle infield. She has a plus arm. I mean, so I think just moving her over and getting her comfortable there. And then, if it comes up and kids have confidence issues, or women have confidence issues as the season goes, I think we just got to say, hey, be who you are, you have the talent, and we're going to be fine. And then if it comes up, just say, hey, that's part of our rich tradition that we're trying to build. And Sami is gone, whether we want it to be or not. Someone else has got to step in and fill that vacuum. And I think whoever ends up being there will have the leadership quality and the ability to do it. And, you know, we've taken a look at Kaylee Pond there and Alicia Ranches, and we've have a couple players on on roster that's played over there. But I think whoever steps in, you know, is just got to be themselves and be their own leader and do things their way, not try to be someone that they're not, and be where their feet are, and we'll be fine.
When it comes to leadership on the team, is that something that just develops itself in the fall? Is that something, do you do certain things to kind of create the leadership there? How do you take us through the process of that leadership and how it develops?
I think this fall is going to be crucial because with this, you know, with COVID, we didn't have team bonding. We didn't have activities where, you know, we were masked up, staying 6 feet apart and not doing things. I think this fall, we kind of come back and we started right into practice right off the bat. So we've done one team bonding thing. You know, we're going to probably have to do another. I mean, I think you try to do things that'll help the team and let those leaders rise to the top and whatever you're doing, whether it's team bonding or leadership activities or just watching them on the field like this weekend. We've kind of as coaches have kind of let them kind of in practice a couple of times. Just we didn't even we were coaching in our minds, but we let them kind of do the drills and then scrimmages, let them do the talking to see who would rise and that. And we've gotten some people that have stepped forward. There's a couple of more that we would like to that probably don't see themselves as leaders, but they are by the way they go about their business. And people follow them because they you know they do the right thing. They go to class, they come to practice, they help set up practice, tear down practice. You know, little things that other players notice that you know you want to be like this rather than not. So we've done kind of more observing, and we'll probably dig into that once you know with our weather it comes. You got to jump in and play and so quickly. We haven't really gotten into a lot of that team building and developing leader type things. We're just kind of seeing if it's happened naturally, and you know that'll come after our fall season's over. But people are moving to the front on that, so it'll be interesting to see who how that develops and what it looks like when we actually get to February.
We're speaking with Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton here on In the Circle. Big 12 in the news a lot in the last few months. A lot of moving parts going on there with obviously Oklahoma and Texas down the road departing to go to the SEC. The Big 12 expanding, adding UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati. Cincinnati does not play softball. From a softball standpoint, obviously you get UCF, BYU, and Houston. Your thoughts? All these moving parts. A lot. You know, it from a softball standpoint, it's an impact. But the good news is you're getting three strong programs that have been accustomed to being the NCAA tournament here. And, you know, I've spoken to Coach Gajewski and you and other coaches in the Big 12. You've been the number 3 RPI conference over the last few years and kind of knocking on the door of the Pac-12 and the SEC. And it's not because of two programs. It's because the league is as a whole.
Well, we've actually been to a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously it was a shock. I mean, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, and you know, it obviously it's way above my pay grade, and even understanding that we all get it, but I think you know after the initial shock, I realized I'm still a couple of things. I'm still the head coach at Iowa State, and Iowa State is still going to play softball. And you know, I've talked with Kenny and several other coaches, and we knew that we would still play softball. So, you know, obviously it was going to be in a different world, but you know, for the situation that we were in and all the gloom and doom, and I think the number one thing that I did when that happened is I tried not to and did a pretty good job of not following social media because you know, the gloom and doom, okay, the Big 12's dead, it's going away, and this and that, it's going to crumble. Where are all these schools going to end up? You know, is the landscape going to continue to change? Absolutely. I don't think any of this is done. This is just Jamie Pinkerton's listen to me talking in third person, but it's my view. But I mean, I know we got great leadership in Jamie Pollard, and he's at the forefront. And I think that stuff will take care of itself. But with that being said, obviously disappointed that Oklahoma and Texas are going to leave. But I also think with the programs that are coming in, like you mentioned, BYU historically a regional team, UCF has been good and historically a regional team. Houston is traditionally a good team and goes to the NCAA. So obviously I'm happy that we picked up enough teams. The thing that crept in my head, okay, if they leave early and we don't bring anyone in, being on the committee, you got to have 6 teams. So you would have probably got a waiver year, but to get teams in. So I think, obviously it's still going to be a very good softball conference. And the thing I'm kind of excited about now with having an even numbers, we don't have to try to find bye weeks, teams to play bye weeks. So I think there's definitely going to be advantages of adding 3 and with losing of Oklahoma and Texas. But BYU, UCF, and Houston, if you think across the country and the situation, I think that it shook out pretty well, given the situation we were in, to have, from a sport of softball, to have 3 quality programs and 3 quality people as coaches. I mean, the coaches at each school, in the dealings I've had with them, have always been class acts and been good to me. And I just think that all things generally work out.
Yeah, and again, strong programs, strong markets. I mean, you get to now trip, every other year to Florida, tap into that market. So it's not, it's a pretty good deal. And I think healthy for softball, you get up to 8 teams. You mentioned now you don't have a bye week. So does that make it easier from a future scheduling standpoint? Does that make it easier or harder?
Oh, absolutely. The bye weeks are tough because a lot of teams that you can compete against, the Big 12 is really good at sending out a sheet that has the opponents that has the bye week the same weekend as you. But, it's just tough. I don't know. I can't speak for Kenny or any of the other coaches in the Big 12, but about scheduling. But I mean, it's just tough to get a bye week opponent in Ames, Iowa in March or early April because of weather. You mentioned going to Florida. We already do that in tournaments. So, but now this gives us I just hope it's not in May. I don't like hot weather. So if anyone's listening, I prefer to go early in March. But with that being said, jokes aside, I think that it's going to be more continuity in scheduling. I think the conference is still going to be at 3 or 4, 2, 3 or 4. I mean, if we all have good years like we're capable of having, I think we'll still be in that 2, 3, and 4 range. I mean, it's going to we're going to have to all be strong up and down to stay with the Pac-12, which I think we can do. And then with just the sheer numbers of the ACC and the Big Ten, we're going to have to be good up and down the conference, all 8 of us, to hold that. But I still think, from a softball standpoint, we're still definitely a Power 5 conference.
No doubt. I mean, you even look back to last year, Kansas was on the bubble for most of the year in the NC to make the tournament. They had some quality wins, kind of ran out of gas at the end. Texas Tech was at a regional final 2 years ago. In fact, other than Kansas, every program, softball-wise, in the Big 12, including with the new members, has been to at least a regional final within the last few years, I think since 2018. So, right. I mean, this league might just be deeper, more competitive, and could be in position where you could get 6, 7 bids from the league easily, if not all of them, which we've seen from other leagues.
Yeah, exactly. And, take Kansas. McFalls has done a great job there. Take out a couple of injuries and they're probably in. I mean, Brittany Jackson was hurt late in the year, and I know that they had some other injuries with some key players. And I think there could have been a position made for all the teams to get in with Kansas being added, and Texas Tech with a coaching staff change. I can see them having bounce back year. It's hard to learn a system and play for a new coach. I mean, I found that we were 23 and 33 our first year. So, I mean, I think there's always a transition year, and the talent is there at Texas Tech. And like you said, with UCF, BYU, and Houston coming in, I could see this being a 5, 6, 7 bid league team, even 8, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. I mean, the competition every weekend, and no bye weeks, as you mentioned. Every week it's going to be a battle. So we'll just see how all that plays out in the Big 12. But I think it definitely in the long term, considering where people were chatting about a month or two ago, I think the Big 12 softball wise, pretty healthy. It's come out pretty well. Could all things considered with everything that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy where it's at from a softball standpoint. And like I said, obviously, you never want to lose members from your conference, and you don't want to go through that. But I think that's just the landscape that we're in today. And then, let's be honest, it's football motivated. And then the rest of us just kind of got to keep our minds straight and go in and continue to coach our kids. And that's the approach I took. Like I said, I knew I was still the head coach at Iowa State, and I knew we were going to have a softball program, and just control what you can control, and just kind of keep grinding it out, and things will work out. And I think for where we were at a couple of months ago and all of the gloom and doom, I think the conference is still going to be a top 5 conference.
Easily, without question. 2 last things before we let you go. Field of Dreams. I have to bring this up. I brought this up with Coach Gillespie. The Field of Dreams in baseball. Monster success. Television draw. The White Sox and the Yankees. They're going to come back next year for the Cubs, I think, and the Reds. What was your reaction as a baseball fan seeing that take place with the Field of Dreams and the theme in the corns? It was a huge success. Everybody loved it. I would assume you were in that camp. You liked it.
I thought it was awesome. I mean, obviously, the attention that the state of Iowa got was even more than I expected. I knew it was going to be big because, obviously being on national TV, and then the hype that it had gained in 2020 before obviously it was shut down, and then having it done. And, I'm of the generation, you talk to our players, they haven't seen the movie. I mean, think about how long ago the movie actually is. But I go, is it heaven? No, it's Iowa. Our players, I don't know to the person. I don't know if anyone has seen the movie, but I think that the coverage and how it looked and everything, 1, was good for baseball, and 2, it was good for our state. And I think a lot of things that, going back to Ryan Jacobs, Rich Calvert, Renee Gillespie, and myself, living here, we know that it's a beautiful state. We know that it's more than cornfield and farming, but that is a staple. I mean, that's who it is. It's Upper Midwest. It's blue collar. It's Iowa nice. I mean, all those things tie in. It is who we are. And like I said, I'm not a native, but I'm grateful and blessed that I live in the state that we do, and it's a great state. And in people, it was a great thing to watch, and I was kind of trying to go 2 ways with that. But it was actually it was a beautiful setting when you just flat out look at it. And recruiting high school softball here, I knew what it was going to look like on TV, because there's many a night that I've gone to a high school game that is surrounded by cornfields, and coming back here from Montana, everyone's going, how do you say it's beautiful when you left the Rocky Mountains and Montana? And I go, it's just a different setting. I think any way you look at it and how you look at it, any part in our nation can be beautiful in its own way. And to sit and watch a high school softball game with the sun setting on a cornfield, can't get much better than that.
Could we see a softball version of that in the fall? I asked Coach Gillespie about that. She thought there was some ways to do it in the fall, can't do it in the spring because of weather and things like that. And
you don't have corn.
Right, exactly.
They don't plant until, probably, I've kind of gotten into this farming thing. I have players that are farmers. My big bucket list thing now to do is I want to go and ride on a combine during harvest. I'm going to get that done somehow, some way, but that's one of my goals. So, I think that it could get done. We just have to find the setting. I mean, I haven't talked to, maybe you have a big four. I don't know where you do it. Maybe you could pull it off in Dyersville, but I don't know how we would do it or find a place, but I'm sure there's a venue somewhere in Iowa that could probably get it done.
Yeah, I think the four of you can chat, figure this out. I'm willing to help out and like go out there and check it out. Be like I don't know if I could be like the Joe Buck. I won't be Kevin Costner, but I don't know if we can convince Costner. But it was pretty cool. It was an amazing night, I think, for the state of Iowa to showcase themselves. And boy, that would be kind of cool if we somehow did a softball version of that in the fall. That would be kind of wild.
It went through my mind, but I haven't brought the subject up to the others. And I tell you, between the four of us, we could probably find a field that's suitable, I'm sure.
Well, just throw me under the bus. Just say, hey, look, I just saw you were on the podcast. You guys were with him. Eric, he's kind of a nut job. Did he bring up this idea? Yeah, what'd you think of it? Yeah, okay, there you go. Just throw me under the bus, Coach. I fear your permission.
Would never throw anybody on the bus. You kind of put me on the spot there.
No. Look, it was kind of cool. Like I said, it was a pretty awesome night of sports in general, baseball. Last thing, as we retape this, your Kansas City Chiefs, beloved, had a heartbreaking loss to the Ravens. So I was a little worried about asking you about the Chiefs after a loss like that. But it is early in the season. So just give me big picture. Thoughts on the Chiefs 2021. Small sample size, 2 games as we talk. But I mean, still a high expectation, still a fun team to watch. Give me your thoughts here as a Chiefs fan.
I mean, disappointed in the way it turned out. I mean, obviously, I'm not a football coach, and all I can do is just tell you what I saw, and I think offensively, we've known this for 3 years. People can't stop them. So I mean, Cleveland has a good defense, didn't stop them. Baltimore traditionally has a good defense, didn't stop them. I think at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a lot of games that they have that they're going to have to outscore and come up with some key stops. I think, the normal cast of characters are going to be in there, Tampa, Green Bay. I mean, I'm kind of looking at my hated Raiders, and they've looked good the first couple of weeks. Actually, the division's looking a lot better.
Denver. It's got a little Big 12 feel to it there. Everybody's good there. Denver, the Chargers. I mean.
Yeah. But think about the first 2 games they've played. Arguably, a lot of people think Cleveland could challenge them this year. So they won that one, obviously, at home. Baltimore is the games have been good the last 3 times. And I saw the little clip on ESPN about Harbaugh asking Lamar, do you want to go for it?
Yeah.
I think if they gave the ball back with less than a minute, Kansas City would have figured out a way to get down the field. So I thought that was a big call, and Lamar had a great game. But looking at their schedule, I mean, they still have the Bills, they still have Pittsburgh, they still have Minnesota, who I think is going to straighten things out. I mean, obviously within the division, Denver's defense is good. The Raiders are better. So I think it's going to be an enjoyable football year. But I was disappointed. But like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's going to happen. Everyone's saying, well, he shouldn't have fumbled, or they should have left the ball in Mahomes' hand. But when you have a kicker like Butker that can kick it from almost 70 yards, they were lining up to win it with a field goal, and it happens. It's like softball. Your best player or one of your best players is going to make a mistake at some point in time, and you as a coach, right away you can't finger point. I mean, it's just, if you go through and look at the film of the game or a film of a softball game, there's always going to be 2 or 3 things in a game that, hey, if we would have done this, whether it was a coaching decision or a player making a physical error, it's going to happen. It's how you recover from it and how you move on and learn from it. And that'll be a learning moment for them just as well as it would be in a softball game. So you don't finger point, you let it happen, you go back and you try to fix it, and then you move on. And I think think they'll still be there at the end.
As long as you got that Mahomes kid, they'll be
Yeah.
all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I hope Father Time doesn't catch up with him, but Father Time's undefeated. So enjoy some of those. There's just no way a person can continue to throw a ball like that as you age. So we'll see. But if anyone's an NFL fan, and whether they're a Chiefs fan or not, they need to watch. They need to watch Patrick Mahomes. That's gets back to generational talent.
Well, I think there's a lot of bandwagon Chiefs fans just because of him now. Like he's one of those guys that transcends. I covered the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. There's a lot of Steph Curry jerseys. They're not necessarily Warrior fans, but they're Steph Curry fans. So because of that, they root for the Warriors. I think it's the same with the Chiefs. I think there's a lot of people that are huge Patrick Mahomes fans that are rooting for the Chiefs because of him. Not necessarily because they're diehards like you that've grown up a Chiefs fan, but there's a lot of people that have jumped in there. He's one of those transcendent guys. A Michael Jordan with the Bulls is another example.
Well, I am not a bandwagoner fan. I'm waving my pen at you, but I am not a bandwagon fan. I had someone say that in 19 or something. Oh, you're a bandwagoner. I said to that person, I saw a game as a kid in Old Municipal Stadium. That is not a bandwagoner. And for anybody that's listening, that's prior to 1973.
Yeah, no, in previous episodes, I think you and I have talked about like that infamous Dolphins Chiefs Christmas Day game in the early 70s.
Oh yeah, I saw that one on TV, but I can still see Gerald Upremium and Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris and Bob Greasy. I mean, I cried in front of the TV set. Granted, I think that was Christmas Day 71. So I would have been, age myself. I'd been 6, 7 years old, 7. So I've been a Chiefs fan for as long as I can remember.
It's been a long time. I mean, you went through the Bill Kenny days. Todd Blackledge was a Chiefs quarterback. Dave Craig. Montana, we had a cup of coffee there when you got to the AFC title game in '93. You
lived through Joe Delaney being a hero and saving some kids and losing his life. I mean, that's a good ESPN 30 for 30 short or whatever they have. I recommend anyone to watch that. So I mean, you finally thought the Chiefs got a franchise running back and then had a tragic accident in Monroe, Louisiana with Joe Delaney and Dante Hall and Tamarick Vanover. I mean, I can go name a bunch of them.
The late great Derek Thomas.
Yes.
Kristen Okoye, the running back, Barry Word. I mean, there were some great Chiefs teams that people Google that you came so close, and in the playoffs, you just got some bad breaks. And
outside of Renee Gillespie, my favorite Hawkeye, Ed Podolak.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
He's an announcer for their football, for Iowa Hawkeye football, but he was a great Chief. Len Dawson got a jersey in my man cave. So definitely not a bandwagoner.
No. And I think if anybody's listening to this show, they know they're not. That's why this is like our traditional Chiefs chat every year when we have you on. One thing I forgot to mention, you were recently College Game Day was at Ames for the Cyhawk. You were there. Describe that, because that's been incredible atmosphere to watch on TV. Thankfully, you had good weather this time around. The last time they were at Game Day was there. Mother Nature played a role both with the football game and the show. Not as much this time around, but it's an incredible atmosphere over there. What was it like?
I would tell any fan, college football fan, you need to bucket list Ames, Iowa, because the atmosphere around Jack Trice is second to none. I've worked at a lot of universities. And just the support and the tailgating and the lead up to the game is spectacular. And then you add game day. And it was just, we had recruits in that weekend. It was a great recruiting weekend. Obviously the outcome of the game's not what we wanted, but everything that led up to it, the buzz around the town, and it's definitely a college town, and be able to go to game day and have recruits see that live. And then, have a top 10 matchup in the game, and then just the electricity around campus and the atmosphere. There's some places I've been to college football games, and if you're a college football fan and a true football fan. I've been a lot of places. You need a bucket list. Ames, Iowa.
It's tremendous. It was a tremendous atmosphere, and obviously they've had Coach Campbell's done a great job there with the football program,
Yep.
and really everybody in the athletic department.
And he's come and talked to our women last year before we opened Big 12 conference play. Just an incredible human being and a great coach, and it's a good time to be a Cyclone in the athletic department.
Well, no doubt about that, and you're a big part of that, Coach. And like I said, congrats so far on the success you've had there. Good luck this fall as you kind of build your team and get set for the 2022 season. Always appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule. Good luck, not just with the Big Four Classic, but the rest of the fall, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Well, thanks for your kind words. Thanks for having me as always. And if we ever get the Big Four in a cornfield in Iowa, you need to come call the games.
I'm down, man. I'm down for that.
I have a vote in, and I know Renee Gillespie will vote for you, and we can sway the other two.
I hope so. Well, they've all been on the show now.
All we got to do is get Rich or Ryan to get us a majority, and then we're in.
I like my chances, but I like it. I'm down for it, Coach. You be good.
All right. You take care, buddy.